Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be. I am your humble host, Mr. David Null, also known as Hawkeye Feathers, and I continue to pray that each and every day, that each and every one of you will continue to learn how to accept and receive the knowledge, the healing, the wisdom, and the many, many blessings that are come from the universe. So, with that said, I hope that everyone who comes and watches this video, I thank you in advance. And to all of my subscribers and friends and relatives and all y'all out there who have supported me over the many years that I've been here, and I thank you. So, in this conversation of climate crisis and in climate change, and I watch the news every day, and my brain just has a tendency to go around in circles and circles and circles. And I go, what is wrong with these people? And I used to be on the bandwagon 10 or 15 years ago until I started realizing, hey, wait a minute. The older I get and the more I have hey, Travis and Chloe and Scotty Boy, it was good to see you two this evening. Um, and so, but in my almost 71 years, in a couple of months, here I go with my age again. But I mean it only in that I've had a lot of time to be able to observe conditions. Now, I've been here on my property for 40 years. And so 20 years ago, in like 2002, 3, and 4, this time of year was so bad. It was so hot. The well was dry. We had, hey, Michelle, blessings to you. Did I say hi, Travis? Um, anyway, so we had to bring in water. All right. And tonight there was a thunderstorm. We had a thunderstorm last night too that come rolling through. And I haven't checked the rain gauge, but there was at least an inch of rain today. All right, because of how much rain just came down. Me and Duggar went up the driveway, and the driveway's washed out again. I mean, it's like a lot of rain came down the hill. Well, I live at the bottom of the hill, so when it rains, it comes downhill, you know, and washes come through here, and I mean, it'll be this deep out there in the yard, and it was today. So, but 20 years ago, we were in such a drought. We all thought we was going to die. We thought that the end of the world was coming 20 years ago because of the drought. Farmers around here, people had to redig their wells. I had to get back down in my well that is hand dug and dig it a little deeper. And, and so, but for some reason, the climate has changed such that, oh my God, we're all going to die. Well, let me tell you, I feel a lot better these last couple of years. We've actually had like normal rainfall. We are not in a serious drought condition. I mean, it got so bad, 20 years ago and spotty in between. It's taken quite a few years in the last 20 years for normal rainfall to kind of like come back to South Georgia and this area. And I know there are other places in the United States and the world who are suffering from one kind of drought or too much water. So one could argue this year that we've had too much water. Wow, every time I turn around, it's raining, and every time I turn around, it's raining. And that was true. And the boat that I bought, I forgot to put it up on a block, and it was sitting like this with the nose down. And so all the rain we had last night got into the boat, and I had to get a jack under it to lift it up, so it was high enough for the water to drain out of the boat. That was a dumb mistake that I made yesterday, but I had no idea how much rain we were supposed to get. But anyway, so this climate change thing and this climate crisis. So, in doing my due diligence as a watchman and going out and watching, young folks protesting and all this stuff and blah, blah, blah. And then, you see another car that's burst into flames from its batteries. And I think to myself, when was the last time a regular car just blew up? Man, they had to be in an accident or something. But anyway, I digress on that one. But this the crisis part of it is my point. So that years ago, Al Gore and everybody started. And look, I voted for the guy for president back in 2000 instead of George W. Right, little George. And because I was convinced that yes, we were all headed down this direction. And in the year 2001, 2, 3, we were going into a drought down here, and we were short on water and so forth. And there was sort of this crisis for us down here in that, oh my God, this climate change, and it has become a crisis. Well, we were in a crisis state because we didn't have any water. Not just us here on the property, but my neighbor and this neighbor, and they were people were re-drilling their wells because their wells had gone dry, and farmers were having trouble with enough water to irrigate their farms and stuff. And that was 20 years ago. Okay, so it wasn't that long ago. But in my lifetime of 70, almost 71 years, I look back over the climate, and there have been times of drought, there have been times of flood, there have been times of this, there have been times of that, all over the planet. Oh, there were, I remember years ago there was bad floods in Italy and also in Greece. There was something that just happened over there, and it just sat there between Italy and Greece, and it just rained, and man, there were people, flooding and this and that. And other countries, remember, floods in Romania, and there were other countries that had floods, and other countries that had droughts. So, but this idea that it has become a crisis is what we all need to stop thinking of, because the sun has been changing. I mean, just in the last couple of days, we have, been sideswiped by a big solar wave that came off of the sun. And that has a lot to do with our climate here on this planet, and also our position of how the earth wobbles or doesn't wobble, or its position in our solar system, the time of year, the how many years have gone by. Um, there are solar cycles it sounds like a solar powered bike, don't it? There are the sun cycles over long periods. There are galactic type of events that our planet in position in the solar system, but also our position in the galaxy. Okay, so because everything is connected in all kinds of different ways. So and the Kali Yuga, and there's all kinds of different stuff. There's all these different types of cycles that the Earth and the solar system and the sun, and the universe goes through. So if we keep these things in mind, that things are cyclical, there are cycles, um, people forget that. So the big news and the high numbers and everything that folks want to discuss to make it put in the news is the climate crisis, the crisis of it all. And I just want to say, holy crap and Jesus crisis. That's a bad joke. Sorry, guys. But in that, somehow, we've got to blame. It's our. This is a good point to the Jesus thing and the church and all. The churches always have a tendency to want to blame things on the parishioner. In other words, you're the sinner. You're the one that has to be baptized. You're the one, I'm thinking Catholic Church too. You're the one that has to go to confession. You're the one that has to be worthy or unworthy of being able to, receive Jesus into your heart, kind of thing. And I don't mean that, um, badly, okay? But so that they make the parishioner feel guilty, all right? So that you have to bow down, you have to worship, you have to do all these things, right? And there are certain things that you have to accept, whether they make sense or not, right? So in this grand scheme of things, in this climate crisis, they have to make us be the scapegoat, okay? Just like the churches and all these, the government has to make you feel guilty, Do I even want to ask the connection, Travis? What? If it makes you laugh, then it's good for you. Yeah. Speaking of cockroaches, you need to find yourself a woman. Is that Joe's apartment or something? But so anyway, in this climate crisis, somebody, I can't remember, somebody made this offhanded, remark about, oh, the climate crisis and how hot it is outside. And they said, well, then turn on the air conditioner. Well, I just bought an air conditioner 2 weeks ago. So, I haven't had an air conditioner. Well, that's not true. I have one upstairs. But I haven't run an air conditioner. Last year I had to because of my heart attack. And this year, kind of sort of the same thing. It gets really muggy down here in the South to where you could just cut through the humidity. And we had a heat index the other day of 115. So it was quite warm outside. And so, it's a balmy 75 degrees in here now. So even though it's really muggy outside. But anyway, so this climate crisis deal, it's not a crisis unless you're the one that it's affecting. Like for me, and here on the property, and down here in the South Georgia, 20 years ago, we were all out of water. It didn't rain for 9 months. 9 months, we didn't have hardly a drop of rain. I mean, literally a drop of rain. The skies would get cloudy, and if the rain came out of the clouds, it never touched the ground. And I mean, farmers were re-drilling wells. I said that, but to the point though. So literally 20 years ago to this time of year, we were literally sweating. It was physically 99 degrees outside. That was the real temp, not the feels like temp. So, and it was 2 or 3 years it was that bad. And I mean, it took several years for us to finally recover from the drought that we experienced 20 years ago. But now people, that we can't count that. No, that was, we were in a crisis down here. Okay. While other folks around the country had plenty of water and some folks had too much. So it's like, all right. So, but the climate only becomes a crisis when the weather affects your area. Okay. I mean, we had, over an inch of rain today and yesterday. And there's Duggar. What? Oh, hush. Whatever you're barking at, hush. Row to you too. I keep letting him out, but anyway. Um, Sometimes when he barks, and I have learned to listen to it, there's deer out yonder. There he goes. Just calm down a minute. I'm if I let him out, I'll just have to go let him in like a minute, you know. And so, oh well, there's different cats that come up at different times of the night to eat the cat food that I put outside. And so the plate is like right outside the window. So, things come in and munch on them. Sometimes there are possums that come up. Not so much raccoons, but any critter that might be hungry in the neighborhood will wander on by. But so anyway, so this climate crisis, we're coming up on a 20 here shortly. So y'all join me. But I would like for those of you out there to use your influence to stop using the word crisis. Okay. I mean, just as somebody says, "Oh, we're in a climate crisis," just kind of wave over it. And for me, I've stopped using the word crisis. Are we in, the climate's always fluctuating. The moon gets a little closer to the earth, it affects those things and this and that. The moon moves a little further away from us and it affects the earth. The I haven't done an earth wobble in a while because the skies have been so overcast for so long. It's hard to me to make any observations on a consistent basis. Well, oh, 3 weeks ago it looked like this, but I need to make them nightly or every other night or something like that anyway. So, but knowing that the earth has been wobbling because of my observations over the years and discussions that I've made here on this channel, um you know and scientists are agreeing, whoop, the earth is wobbling, woo, okie doke. And one day we see the moon down here, and 2 days later we see the moon up here. Things, when the moon moves that far in our sky, it's affecting the earth and it's affecting the climate. And now geoengineering has been in the news. What? Mainstream news. What, you say? Yep. So it's not just a secret conspiracy theory anymore. It's out there in the general news that, wait, we've had geoengineering for how long? Now, whether they're trying to use it for nefarious purposes or not, 20 years ago, those of us who lived down here in South Georgia, we were shaking our fist at them bastards, going, if you can geoengineer the weather, then send us some frickin' rain. We never got it back then. I mean, 9 months we went. I can't remember. I think it was 2002 or three. It was one of them years. 9 months we had no rain. I mean, there wasn't a cloud in the sky and hot. It was literally, it got to 101 in the shade in those years. So people are complaining about how hot it is right now. The heat index is high, but that's because of the humidity. But it's not because of the temperature. I got a thermometer stat out right outside the door out there, and I'm always checking it. So the hottest it's been this year here at the house has been 95 degrees. Okay. Heat index, not counting that, but 95 degrees. And me and Doug are always going out. I'm always checking it, but 95 degrees. So I think it got up to 97 the other day in Tallahassee. But as far as I know, we haven't broken 100 is my point. Where a couple of years ago, it was 100 degrees outside without the humidity and the feels like temperature. So in all of this, and in my 70 plus 1 years almost now, the weather has always changed. We haven't had a tropical storm up here in the Gulf this year. Do you know how odd that is? That we haven't had at least a tropical storm develop in the Gulf at all? I mean, there's been a couple little disturbances, but nothing to get named. Everything else has been out in the Atlantic and over here. And, this is August, well, next week. And we haven't had the slightest of a depression really to count on. There have been a couple of things off the coast down here, off the coast of the Panhandle, me living in Southwest Georgia, so close to, really close to Florida. So, that weather has always affected us one way or the other. And, we're getting today, last night, there are fronts coming in from up north, cold fronts. Okay. Anything warmer, I mean, anything cooler than 95 degrees, I guess, is a cold front. But we had some severe thunderstorms today and a bunch of rain. And so, which, depending on the year and the season, we get these rains, but they're usually from low pressure systems in the Gulf of Mexico. And there just hasn't been that kind of activity. So is it odd? Yeah, it for me, this is really odd that there's nothing in the Gulf right now, and hasn't been. Knock on wood. I don't want anybody to have a hurricane come on them, but that's where we used to get our rain in the summertime was from low pressure systems out of the Gulf. So, but anyway, is it 20? Oh, it's 20. Oh, it's 22. Ooh, I'm late. Are we in a crisis? I would say right now we're in a lull. Why? Because the United States isn't getting beaten to death by a hurricane. I would call that, hey, we're pretty lucky. Are we in a crisis? No. If there were two or three hurricanes sitting out in the Gulf or off the coast, where it was going to be battering Florida and in Texas and whatever, consider yourselves lucky. This if there ain't no hurricanes out there right now, are we really in a crisis? Just asking. My personal opinion is no. And I make that statement because I've lived 70 plus years, and a lot of it has been along the Gulf of Mexico. I lived down in Tampa, I lived up here all these years, and we're not that far from the coast considering other places. And so, but to have observed the weather personally, I'm like, no. I remember one year, every 10 days, we had another low pressure system that moved in. There was like Isaac and Noah and this one and that one. And man, they were coming up through the Gulf and hammering us to death. It was raining so much. I mean, we were pathetically tired of rain and flooding, and we'd had enough, literally up to here. And damn flying roaches, little bastards. Um, the only thing I'd say I have a problem giving up is cigarettes. Oh, um, but anyway, yeah, I still haven't given up cigarettes, but I have learned to like put them out and light them back. So I have cut down. It didn't affect me more. But, so for folks that you might be in contact with, I would suggest to you to reconsider using the word crisis. And climate change is like, duh. Hey, Diane, big hugs back at you, sweetie. So it's like climate has my last 70 years. Hey, CD, what's up? Um, you know, um, oh, Barry's in the house. Hey, Oh, and Richard, boy, I missed a bunch of you right there all of a sudden. But so, this idea that, somehow, that we're in this crisis status. Well, when you lived as long as I have and have observed the weather as long as I have, you know, I thought I was going to have to get back in my well and dig it out again. But it's full. I don't have to worry about water in the well. There's you should hear the frogs outside from all of the rain we've had that's filled up my swamp in the backyard just last night and today. And so it's like, but that doesn't happen all the time. But, I remember back when in the summer months, we used to get a decent amount of rain. We used to get thunderstorms every afternoon almost regularly. It might only rain for 30 minutes, but we had a shower and blah, blah, blah. When I worked on the carnival back in the 60s, some nights we'd get shut out with rain. Sometimes it'd rain about 9:30, which was always odd. And, then we'd stay open till 11:30 and, had to wipe off the seats and all, and that was more common than not back in the day. But the fact that it's somehow a crisis, that's our politicians and the eco nuts, and the more information that's coming out about electric batteries and electric vehicles and, oh, they can go 200 miles. No, they can't go 80 miles. Oh, they can do this. No, they can't. They're being touted as all these wonderful, beautiful things. And the bottom line is, no, they ain't. Now, anybody that has, used batteries at all is, yep, it's a scam. Um, the dead end collect. So I'm not saying we shouldn't have battery operated vehicles. I'm for anything, and I'm not saying that's necessarily going to help the environment, but I can see the value of electric vehicles, especially if you live in town and you're scooting around little places and like that. I see the value of that. But when you live out in the country like I do, and Robert V and I were talking about it earlier, and not just an electric vehicle, but somebody out, he was out in Montana, and I've been out there, and it's like you go 50 miles and you don't see anything. It's rolling hills, and you look around. Wyoming's the same way. We drove through Wyoming and all you could see was the deer and the antelope playing. That was it. And I mean, for miles and miles and miles, nothing, no houses, no trees, no nothing. So you're going to have a gas car because you're not going to be able to get from point A to point B out there out west because it's just too far between places. You'd have to go to the place, stop and charge, and then try to get home. But anyway, but the wilderness of things, the vastness of some of the places here just in the United States, so some things are not going to fit all circumstances. That's like, right now we got plenty of water down here in Southwest Georgia. Uh, not so 20 years ago. But oh my God, it's a crisis. Well, 20 years ago, we didn't have water, and now we might have had a little too much water. Oh, we go from one crisis to another. Oh, but the heat is so hot, we're all going to die. It's the hottest it's ever been. Now they come to find out that something that they did to make it look worser is that they took the ground temperature versus the air temperature. So some of the stuff that they reported the other day about how hot it was and how extreme it was Where if you measure down on the ground, it's going to be a lot hotter. If you put that thermometer against a tree in the shade, you're going to measure the ambient temperature for real. Is what is the actual degree in Fahrenheit or Celsius? If you put it out in the sun, it's going to be hotter. In this wintertime, when the sun comes and hits the side of the house, it'll be 60 degrees outside, and the side of the house will be 110. What? But that's the power of the sun. The sun is the cause for the climate change, but not the crisis. So this idea that somehow, and so they want to, some of these folks want to make it worser than it actually is, right? So the scoop is out that whoops, they messed up the other day when they measured all those hot temperatures. They put the thermometer on the ground and went, "Oh my God! Look how hot it is." When if they'd picked up that thermometer and hung it on the wall, which is what they're supposed to do, it would have been 10 to 15 degrees cooler, which is normal. So, these folks are lying to us. They are literally making stuff up, literally making stuff up. And these younger kids that are 30 years or younger that don't have enough, they haven't logged in enough years to be able to look back. If some of these idiots would actually look back and go, "Oh my God, 20 years ago, we had a drought down here." Well, some of these 25 and 30-year-olds are going, "Oh, they were all in the climate change, blah, blah, blah." Yeah, but you were barely alive 20 years ago. You didn't experience it. I was here. I'm the one that dug the well. I'm the one that brought in water. I'm the one that had to do living here. And I was married at the time. But so, I personally experienced it. So, was it a crisis? Then it was. Is it a crisis now? No. So, can climate create a crisis? Yes, I agree with that. But are we in a climate crisis? Depends on where you live. Is the planet in a climate crisis? Now, I agree that we should, clean up some of these factories, the smokestacks. I worked with folks years ago who were building um, uh, filters to go inside of the chimneys. So if there's a company that's burning whatever they're burning, um, that they call them there's scrubbers and things inside the chimneys and the smokestacks that was catching all of these really nasty, chemicals that would have actually ended up in the atmosphere, and they catch them in these honeycomb type of filters that are inside the chimneys. And so, there needs to be more of that. But here's the thing, many of the things that they used 20, 25 years ago, they have been proved. And hopefully, am not in the industry anymore, but hopefully they're still using those types of things to clean up the smokestacks from factories and things. So I do believe that industries are trying to do better, because the industries that I was with before I retired, they were working to try to keep up with stuff. If there was a chemical spill, there was procedures in the plant where stuff went and how it went. It went into certain containers. Everything was logged and had to follow a protocol. And so, um, I don't think that it's gotten. I don't think the rules have relaxed. Okay, in businesses and big businesses, I think they're at least following those same types of procedures. If there's a chemical spill, they got a chemical thing. If you get it in your eyes, they got a wash stand. I mean, this is just sort of OSHA industry standards within manufacturing places. Okay. So I think that the industry in general as an industry is doing better, has done better, and they have cleaned up their act. People are recycling more, but here's one thing we found out the other day: that China stopped accepting recyclables because China said we're not going to be your dumpster anymore. So we've been recycling. Now aluminum it is easy to recycle, right? But the plastics and things, and ooh, yeah, it's going. It ain't going nowhere. It's actually kind of bottlenecked. So this idea of recycling plastic is actually has become a load of bullshit. Nobody's there are places, and I knew there were some businesses down here that used excuse me, that used a certain type of plastic for fence posts. And there are some folks that are using certain types of plastics for like park benches or stuff like that. That's okay. But with the amount of plastics that folks use these days, you can't make enough park benches, you know. But I think they should be making cars out of the plastics, like Tonka trucks and stuff, instead of using all these metals. I think they should be recycling plastics to make fenders and things like that. If you have a crash in your vehicle, the basic part of your vehicle can be made out of steel or whatever, but fenders that are always getting crunched and bumped, it, um, I got my plastic boat out there, I can ding it, bang it, and hit it with a hammer, and it just bounces off. So, my kayaks are like that. So why can't you make fenders that, that are, a certain color and they can fit on your car and you can beat them with a sledgehammer and it won't hurt them, but and it's would be good for the environment. So, but anyway, there are many good things. I might do an electric car with a generator that runs on hydrogen to fuel the batteries. I mean, it sounds fun driving a hydrogen bomb around, right? Well, the folks, is it in Iceland? They converted the whole island to I think it's Iceland, to hydrogen. And they did it back in the early 2000s because they've got all this volcanic activity and everything. And they have gas. I've talked about this before, but I thought it was cool. And I think it was about 2002. Alan Alda did a scientific something, and they was over in Iceland and talked about it and looked at the. So they have these service stations that are these self-contained units, and the unit makes the hydrogen right there on the spot. So, it was all cased in and everything. And hey, they pulled up to this thing and undid it just like a regular. Well, it's not the same because it has to seal and the hydrogen. But anyway, um, that it was a self-contained gas station. So the idea with hydrogen these days here in the United States is that hydrogen needs to be made in one central location and then hauled to all these other gas stations. Well, we need to rethink that because the way they did it in Iceland with these little units that made hydrogen. So if in the United States folks would decide to start using hydrogen, all you'd have to do would be to put up these little gas stations. but ooh, the big oil companies don't want that. But here's the thing, the big oil companies should sponsor it. Why? Because if big oil made these little hydrogen plants, then they would have a corner on the market. Well, we're not selling oil anymore. We're selling hydrogen. And, Exxon, looking for the future. And here's our, we still got oil because your engine needs oil so it doesn't, seize up and blow up. But instead of all that oil, and using it, we've got hydrogen, clean hydrogen fuel for you to go in your vehicle. And so we're going to build these little hydrogen stations all around. What? Now, back and it was scientific something. You can look up Alan Alda, science, um, hydrogen fuel or something, and it'll probably show up somewhere out there. But it was, I don't know if it was PBS or something. But anyway, but it was and it was like once a week they had this program with Alan Alda, and they were studying different scientific things. But anyway, the thing about the hydrogen was he was standing there in the Ford company and he was talking with one of the engineers, and at the time it was a Ford Escort. And Alan asked the engineer, he said, how long would it take to change from gasoline to hydrogen? And the engineer said, well, we, got to have a different gas tank, but the fuel system would be similar and the carburation wouldn't be too much off and everything. And, oh, we could, as a plant physically, we could make some changes. And, within a couple of weeks with the right tooling and everything, we could start, making hydrogen cars, right away. We don't have to do a lot of special tooling, some, but not a lot, and it wouldn't be hard for us to change from gasoline to hydrogen. So, but that was retrofitting the Ford Escort back then. But so, hey, Mark, how are you? 69 plus one. I'll be on a bill with all my info. Can you imagine having a social credit score? That's funny. But so anyway, so the idea of hydrogen is much closer to the real solution. It really is. And, wood-fired gasifiers, something um, that I've studied and want to go back into it because I've got an old vehicle up here on the hill. It's an old Isuzu pickup truck that would be perfect for a gasifier, right? Because it's got a regular carburetor on it and it's got points and you can set the timing and all that. But I did some research and it was like 90% of the vehicles in World War II in Europe and before that, there wasn't enough petrol of any kind to go around, okay? Because of just conditions and things and and the gasoline and diesel being sucked up by the war machine. So people, almost everybody had a gasifier on their car or vehicle or truck or whatever it was. And it was like, what? And if you do a little research, you can see all these vehicles back during World War II with these, cylinders on the usually on the passenger side of the vehicle. And it's where they use coal and sticks and whatever they could find to create this gas to drive their vehicles with. So that hasn't been that long ago. We're talking 80, some less than 100 years. Now we're coming up on it, but the idea that people got around burning wood and coal for their vehicles to drive around in. It had nothing to do with oil. Oil was used in the crankcase, but it wasn't being used for petroleum to fire the vehicles with. So anyway, I found that extremely interesting, as it wasn't just a few vehicles. No, it was like 90% of the vehicles in Europe and Russia were all using wood gasifiers to run their cars. So, one could say, ooh, that's some really bad pollution there. But the climate change, back during World War II was one of the worst winters, on the Russian front. And during the Battle of the Bulge, it was one of the worst winters ever. Well, recently it was one of the worst winters ever. And it was again, over the years, every 10 years or so, it's the worst winter ever somewhere, you know. And I'm not going to disagree. Well, you normally get 10 feet of snow and you got 20 feet of snow this year. that's a, yeah, okie doke. But then what happens next year? Well, it's back to 10 feet again. Well, it's 7.5, or it was 11 in places, but no, we didn't have another 20-inch snowfall. So that was sort of, if the crisis would come, if that you said, well, we had 20 inches of snow this year instead of 10. Well, then next year was 21 inches, and the next year was 22 inches, and the next year was 23 inches. If you saw a steady increase in snow over the course of a couple of years and it continued, then you might say you have a crisis. Okay. But if it just happens a couple of times, like those several years where we had a drought, the last couple of years down here in the South, nice and green, but the grass grows too much. And the rivers are, fluctuating towards more full than not. Farmers aren't having to irrigate as much. I mean, so that drought's over. So is the crisis that was created 20 years ago. Does that mean next year is going to be the same as this year? Are we going to go back into a drier spell? I don't know. But at the moment, we're not in a drought. I'm tickled to say, happy to announce, but other people are. Out west in Kansas, I think our dear friend um, Steve Clark, he was talking about how they didn't have any rain. And here we are getting flooded with an inch of rain in an afternoon. And I mean over several weeks. So we've had plenty of rainfall down here. And the crops look pretty good, and driving in town and back and looking at the farms. So are we in a crisis? Not here, right now. Is somebody else flooding? Probably. Is somebody else got a drought? Probably. But that is the nature of thing on this planet. No different than being a pro gambler. Yep, the losses are going to come, and you can't chase losses, right? And you can't ignore them. You have to be able to keep moving forward. Yep, it was like years ago when the well went dry. I got these two 1,000-gallon tanks that are sitting behind my house that are full of rainwater. And so it's like when the a couple of years after the 2002, 3, 4, the drought lasted for several years. Okay. Um, I mean, we wouldn't get an inch of rain in 6 months, literally. And then we'd get a half an inch of rain for the month. And we just, I was all the time doing a rain dance. Come on, man. It can't keep going like this, right? And it didn't. It's changed in the last 5 years, and we were getting back to more normal rainfall here. But there were times it taught me to get these two 1,000-gallon tanks and put them behind the house. And when rain comes off the roof, it fills up the tanks. And so I'm not worried about water anymore. Now it's nicer that the water's in the well, because if it's in the tanks, that means I got to go outside and put it in a bucket or a container, or I can hook a hose up to it and run it with gravity feed. And it has saved my tail over the last 20 years. Well, actually, I didn't have them in 2002. I got the tanks, I guess, about 2006. So I've had those two 1,000 tanks since about 2006. That'd be about right. Give or take not 2005, yeah, 2006 or 7. But anyway, so I've had these tanks for a while. So, that has saved my butt and been able to provide water and whatever I've needed, simply by rainwater. And even though it didn't rain for months, being able to watch the amount of water that we used on a daily basis. And there were several people living here at the time. So we all had to be careful. Um, and we all had to tote water. If you wanted a bath, then you had to go get you 2 buckets of water, one for washing and one for rinsing. And otherwise, you didn't get a bath. I wasn't going to tote your water. So you was going to have to tote your own water. And the bath water was used to flush the commode. And so, which I still do that today. Why use clean water to flush the commode with? But anyway, so been double duty in the water for a long time. You take a bath, you take a wash, and you take a bath in a bucket or standing over the bucket, so that your soap water or whatever, then it goes to flush the commode, you know. But anyway, but most folks don't do what I do, you know. But most folks, if you'd run out of water like we did, folks had to do strange things, like say their bath water to flush their toilet with. There were some folks, back during the drought where they took a shower, plugged it up, and the water that was saved then went for flush the commode. My neighbor did it. He had to drill another 50 feet, and he's up on the hill right over there. But so, but crisis, is it really a crisis? So all these green people with the CO2 thing, scientists have come up with more information in the last 20 years about the fact that the planet needs a certain amount of CO2. That, oh, we've wiped out so many trees in the rainforest and stuff, and that does create, you know, a climate change, because when they clear cut pine trees around here, the open ground heats up a lot more than a shaded lot with trees do. So if you're down there in the Amazon and you clear out 1,000 acres, it's going to heat up more. It's going to also evaporate more water in the ground because it's more open. So, and ground crops don't really help it none, but it's better than just, well, maybe letting it fallow isn't such a bad idea, but to the point. So cutting down all the trees and everything is not a good thing. But I got to say that the United States is doing a better job. Like for example, in going down the highway up in middle Georgia, they're widening the highway through there on 441, and they have these huge machines. So they've pushed over all these trees and things to make way for the wider highway. So what they used to do and what they still do down here in South Georgia is, hey, Katniss, how you doing? Is they pile all of these big logs and trees and stuff up and they burn them. Well, now the state of Georgia has gotten better at this, and not all over the state, but at least in northern and middle Georgia, they have these absolutely huge machines that turn those trees into bark. They turn them into bark. They turn them into chunks. And you go, well, so? Well, with those chunks that they use with the machine, there are plants in northern Georgia that, like there are carpet manufacturers up there, Mohawk and some of the others, big um, name brand carpet manufacturers, been there for years. And so in some of their processes, they need steam. So I know this because I was working in the industry years ago, and anyway, these they needed a boiler, so they have boilers now that use wood pellets. So instead of them burning these trees just to get rid of them, now they take these trees when they build a highway and turn them into little chunks. And now these chunks can be pressed into pellets. Pellets are just easy to maneuver in the machinery. They use augers and things, and so making the pellets ain't that hard, but it helps in the manufacturing process. So they can pellets are easy to move in different ways in with blowers and augers and things. So, but anyway, there are a lot of plants that need to generate steam. And so why use, all these other things, and maybe natural gas, which ain't a bad thing, but electricity or whatever, they have been using these wood fired boilers for years. And Hearst boilers, less than 20 miles from here, probably only 15. And they make boilers all around the world. And one of the boiler types that they make is for wood pellets. So you say, well, wait a minute. So what's going on in the end? Listen, there are a lot of eco things that have transpired in the last 20 years. There are a lot of people whose their brains have changed. The state of Georgia, obviously, with building highways, has changed their point of view about just piling stuff up and burning it. Now all these huge piles of trees are now being used to make carpet or to use in other manufacturing, where one could say it's a renewable resource. For example, they cut a lot of pine trees around here because pine trees is big business down here in the South. We've got a lumber yard in Moultrie and a lumber yard in Metcalf. I forgot about Metcalf, and there's a lumber yard in Thomasville as well. So three big lumber yards down here. I think there's a lumber yard in Albany as well too. So, but anyway, which has got over 100,000 people up there. But anyway, so but my point is that we have learned to use things would have just a few years ago was just scrap, okay, and now they're using it to fire boilers, and now they've got huge machines to make the sawdust and the wood chips, so they can be used in an industry. So think, and these machines are huge. Think about a stump grinder. If you've ever seen a video of one of them stump grinders that go in and it comes down and chews up the stump and turns it into sawdust. Okay, these things are massive. Okay, I couldn't believe it when I saw them, and I was like, look at the size of that machine. So an idea, it's a good idea, but unless you can build the machine, it's just an idea. But the fact that now the machines are being built so that the trees that might need to come down to build a new highway or expansion or something are now going to be used for, a good purpose rather than just carbon dioxide going into the atmosphere. You see, when they're burnt in these boilers, there's very low carbon dioxide or anything because they kind of smolder them. And it's very efficient, especially with these wood pellets that they use. And now they're selling wood pellets in Walmart now, so you can use them in different things. So the idea of using wood pellets for different things rather than charcoal or this or that, that's a renewable resource. We didn't used to have them before. And it's because they now have these huge machines that grind up trees and can turn them into wood pellets. Ain't that cool? So, what's that got to do with climate change? It's got a lot to do with it because there aren't these huge piles of trees burning that's sending carbon dioxide and smoke into the air. That's the point. Oh, so we're cutting down on all these emissions by these different changes by and it's because of environmental um, activists who have said, listen, what I've been bitching about, why are you burning all that wood? Well, you clear a field out and then they just pile the wood up and burn it and off it goes, and um, I was lucky a few years ago. Oh, it's been, dang, 15 years ago now. But anyway, they had done a bunch of clearing up here on a farm just down the road here. And I stopped and asked the farmers, I said, look, do you mind? They had just piled up these big piles of big oak trees. And I said, do you mind if I cut the wood for to sell for firewood? And do you want to cut? And they were like, no, we're just going to burn the piles. So before we burn the piles, get all the wood out of them piles that you can. And I did, boy. I was cutting like a fool and hauling wood out of them fields as fast as I could do it. And so I had free firewood to sell. Now I had to cut it, I had to split it, I had to deliver it, but that's how I got through a couple of winters. And then one day, I was working on the one pile, and I was getting down a pretty good bit, but there was still a good bit of wood in that pile. And I dropped my chainsaw, and I was up on a pile at least 10 foot up, right where they had piled all these trees up. And I'm standing up there, and my saw slipped over on its side, and I was putting gas in it, and the muffler was so hot that it caught the gasoline on fire and I couldn't put that pile of wood out. It burned. And I never did get another log out of that pile. It just burned up. But anyway, but over the years there have been positive changes with people in how they um, like the uh, like grinding up trees and being able to use them for wood pellets. I mean, there are wood heaters now, depending on where you live, that you can use the wood pellets in a wood burning stove if you don't have access to firewood. Me, I got too much firewood, right? Can't cut it. But um, so the idea of climate crisis, I continue to think, especially in the last 15 years, where I've been able to like look back over the years and go, wait a minute, especially now to look back 20 years ago exactly and to how hot it was then, the no water, the no rain, the all of the stuff that all the panic and trouble we were in and other folks and some folks wouldn't let us get water and I mean, it was a mess. So, and to think about it now and go, what am I worried about now? We're not in the same crisis. So now my opinion of global warming and global this and global that, it's actually been cooler down here in South Georgia these last about 5 years. What? Yeah, it's we had one of the coolest Junes in like recorded history or something here this last year. And because the temperature barely got to 90 for the whole month of June. What? Yeah, really. And usually it's in the 90s in May. And so all these folks are, down here, oh, it's been so hot. Oh, shut up. No, it hasn't. Whoa, oh, it was 89 degrees today. It's June. It's supposed to be 95. Shut up. You know, but so the climate crisis is literally in their heads now. So there are sane people who have gone crazy, Mark. Yep, government gone crazy. So, but anyway, there are a lot of I'm bringing this up for many reasons, but you know, there have been falsies in this, in that false information by them, when what you should do is look around yourself and go, wait a minute, let me find out for myself. Let me ask somebody who's been here for 40 years and who's watched the rain and the drought and the rain and the drought and the rain and the drought. And right now we're in a rain spot. That, we've had several droughts since I've been here where my well has gone dry. And we've had many times when it was like the water was almost coming out of the top of the well. We had so much water. So, but everything has been in a cycle of some sort, and I don't know if there is any particular cycle other than it relates to the sun cycles. The more that we have certain things going on with the sun, it absolutely affects our planet. So you want an excuse? You want something to blame for our crisis of, oh my God, the weather changed. The climate changed. We're in the dog days of summer. Oh my God, it's hot outside. Holy Jesus, what are we going to do? It's summertime. Oh, wait, in 2 months, it's going to start cooling off because we're already August. We're going to start going into fall already. And September, it's my birthday. Yeah, but because then the weather starts really cooling back off for fall. So we're 2 months away from fall, literally 2 months away from fall. What? Oh, it's so hot. It's so this. Wait a minute. We're already starting to go into winter. Pay attention. But I'm not trying to discount that it hasn't been hot, okay? But it's just summertime. It's just summertime. All right. Calm down, y'all. It's just summertime. And in 2 months, literally almost like to the day. What's today is the what? Oh, today's the 23rd. Well, guess what? August 23rd, September 23rd. September 23rd is the first day of fall. 2 months. Okay. Literally 2 months. No, it's actually, if you're talking about my birthday, Scotty, it's 2 months because my birthday's on the 24th of September. So it's literally 2 months away from my birthday. Not that that's what I was after, but My birthday signifies to me fall and cool weather. That's what that ooh, my birthday's coming. That means cool weather. But yeah, it's yeah, my birthday's the 24th of September. But anyway, but it's 2 months away from fall because fall arrives 1 or 2 days before my birthday every year. So, but anyway, so but with that said though, so all of these folks are complaining, and again, there has been some hot temperatures. Okay, you were 5 days after you, 5 days. So yours is on the 19th, Katniss. Hey, Miss Pearl, I saw your note that you had an apartment coming up. Good luck to you. Yeah, right. I understand, Katniss. Yeah, so yours is the 19th. All right, Mark, I'm getting ready. I got to reload. So I was just looking at what time it was. 2:11, 2:11. Yeah, I've been out. I've been out. It's been an hour and 11 minutes since I started this video. But so, yeah, I've made for those who might be like, hanging in and listening to what I might have to say. And I pretty much have said it. That, let's stop using the word crisis. But climate change is a normal thing, and so when somebody wants to get all harebrained and everything, ooh, climate change, and you tell them, I hope to God climate changes. Otherwise, we would either it have rain all the time or no rain, or we wouldn't get enough sunlight, or we better have climate change. Don't be a dumbass. We need climate change. I'm looking forward to winter because it's the natural cycle of things on planet Earth. And if we don't have a winter this year, I won't get any blueberries or not huckleberries. Well, or huckleberries either, but um, mulberries on my tree out there. We gotta have winter. The leaves that gotta come off the trees. The syrup's gotta go back down. The sap's gotta go back down into the roots. I mean, we gotta have winter. We have to have climate change, dumbass. Ooh, climate change. Yeah, you better hope that we have climate change, or you're going to be in piss poor shape, you know. Ooh, climate change. Well, I guess if you lived in Southern Cal, you wouldn't get much climate change. Hey, Mossy Man, how are you? Hope you're doing well out yonder. I still don't see how you put up with it out there. Owie, ow. Right, you're in Southern Cal, right? Katniss. We had our summer. It's over now. Feels like the longest May ever. And dang it, Katniss, where are you again? Right, Katniss, the UK. Right, right, right. Kent. Now I remember. Mark, I live in the Twilight Zone. There are times And here recently, I guess since my back operation, especially the second one, there's been some really weird, funky dreams that just defy all other dreams in the past. For me, anyway. Uh, I used to smoke Kent back in the day. Bad, bad, bad. Don't think it came from the UK though. But there's a man on the wing. Is that in reference to the Twilight Zone with William Shatner? Mark? Well, I grew up in Tampa, and Tampa's weather doesn't change much. It really doesn't. And when I moved to South Georgia, which is 256 miles north of where I used to live, um, so I caught the reference, eh, Mark? Ha ha ha! I'm pretty sharp, ain't I? Sharp as a tack. Yeah, and never mind. Thumb get it and thumb don't. Bad humor tonight. Ooh. But living in Tampa, from Ocala south, the weather doesn't change a lot. You know, and Ocala north, Gainesville, it'll get cool up there and blah blah blah. And Gainesville is a little bit more like South Georgia, in that we get colder weather and it'll freeze easier and whatever. But you go south of Ocala, if the weather changes at all, it's very little. So, when I moved up here to South Georgia, I was like, hell yeah, we actually have winter here. you know, they actually have cold weather. Sometimes they even get snow. It hasn't snowed in 20 years, but anyway, um, and for us down here in the south ish around here, it hasn't been cold enough. Where other parts of the world have, like this last winter, I still got wood piled up out there that I thought I was going to burn, and it just didn't get any colder. And I was like, "What? I got wood piled over here by the stove that I'm ready for this fall already." From last year where it just wasn't cold enough. And so, we can argue and complain. We got 2 minutes. I grew up, then turned back around. Yeah, I still think I'm in another childhood or something. I don't know. Recently, it's been a really strange twilight zone for me, too. It's sort of on the shaman trail of things, just odd stuff, hard to explain. Um, but yeah, I feel like I grew up, looked around, and went, wait. And now I know that I've had my operation, I've had my heart attack, I'm on my medicines, and I'm trying to get back to a stable situation with as a little pain as possible. I got more hydrotherapy to go, and it's only been 4 months since my operation, so um, but I'm ready to go kayaking. I'm ready to go floating again. I'm ready to be active again. I'm ready to get outside. And me and Duggar have been taking little walks and, kind of stretching it. So, but it's like an entirely new. Oh, there's some caterwauling going on out there. But it's almost like a new life, a new start, it's a new something, and at 71, I'm like, what the hell? you know I don't know what it is. It's It's the same, but it ain't. So, but oop, it's time. Sitting here. Well, here recently, I was in the therapy thingy the other day, and it's a big room, big tall ceiling, and they've got different stations in this big room, big open area, and along the one wall over there that's mostly glass, are bicycle type thingies, right? And there's five or six of them at least. And then down towards the end, there's another type of machine. And they have machines, for doing the arms, and they have, anything that would be in a gym, they basically have. But then they also have things like little sets of stairs. And on one side, there's short steps, and on the other side, the steps are a little uh, further apart. And they've got, tables that you lay down on, and then they do exercises with you, and you do leg lifts and different exercises and things. And so, and then outside of that, they've got the small little pool thingy, the hydro thing, which is really great, by the way. Um, so being in there the other day and seeing some really old people, I mean, that maybe they are my age, me being 71. But I was talking with with the sort of the supervisor, and I was being evaluated the other day for more therapy. And so I'm having a conversation. I looked around. I said, we talked before I had the operation, and now it's been, all this time later, almost a year later now, that I'm having therapy after my operation. And I look around, I see all these old people. And he goes, "You wouldn't believe," he said, "some of them people aren't as old as you think." And I said, "Well, I'm almost 71." And he goes, "Well, that there's a person over there that ain't but 68." And and they were like really having a hard time getting around, and here I am. Yeah, I'm learning how to walk again and all this, but I was like, and I told him, I said, "Brandon," I said, "one of the things that I have come to see is that I'm really lucky. I'm in pain and having trouble walking. But I asked for the operation, to try to get better and so forth. But I said, here's these people over there, and they're like really doing a little old person shuffle, and I'm like, and they're in a wheelchair, and they're like needs a person on each side to help them get up. At least I can stand. Yeah, it takes me a minute or two, but I can stand on my own. So I look at these simple things and go, holy crap. My situation could be lots worse compared to these other old people that are here to get therapy to help them, to better walk and, to whatever. So it's like my attitude, not that my attitude was bad, but I looked at them, all these folks, and I went, in my brain, I'm 50. In my brain, I'm only 50. I'm not 70 years old in my brain. I'm 50 because I'm looking at all these old people, and we're within a year or two of being the same age. So these old people are me. What? Yeah. The old people are me. I turned up old all of a sudden. I looked in the mirror as I was walking by, and I had my brace on and I'm using my cane, and I looked sideways and I went, holy fuck, who is that old geezer in the window? It was me. And I went, wow, holy mackerel. Because my brain is like 50, maybe 55. It ain't 70 or 71, right? So my brain, I told him, I said, it's odd that I'm looking at, there was a bunch of old people in there the other day too. I mean, I was like, usually there's some young kids in and out and whatever, but there was a bunch of old people in there the other day. Nothing but, and I was shuffling in a whole lot faster than this other guy. And I'm not allowed to ask how old, but, Brandon was like, you're older than that guy, and I could have made laps around him. And he goes, you're older than that guy. And I was like, really? See what it, and I was just like, see what I mean? I consider myself, even though I am the age that I am, whichever age that is, but as I get older, I realize I don't think like these old people do. I just don't think like these old people, you know? And I'm talking about exercising so I can go kayaking, and somebody looks at me and goes, she'll go high, you kayak? And I'm like, yeah, me and the dog, and I can't wait to go back, kind of thing. She was like, oh, like, what? You're so old. Why would you want to be going kayaking? Because that's fun. It's an adventure, and it makes me feel young, and I like it. And is that what's keeping me young? Is in my brain, I'm still 50, I can remember 60, but I think I feel more like 50, because 50 is just out of 45. It's just out of your 40s. And, and for those of you who are in your 40s now, you'll know what I mean in 10 years. But also, for those of you who are in your 40s ish, you can look back on your 30s and go, that's sort of a reference. Uh, Amanda, how are you? It's good to see you. Rode hard and put away wet. Ween, I absolutely believe in that. A very dear friend of mine is very poorly in hospital. She's 80. God bless her. I would really appreciate you all sending her prayers. Her name is Marie. That's my granddaughter's name. So Katniss, oh, she is she over there in the UK with you? Okay, I'm just, that was a dumb question. So Marie in the UK. Does she need healing prayers or calming prayers? That it's nice to see you. It really, honestly. I so much love to interact with y'all. I do. And it's a guilty pleasure of mine, that I can sit here and yak about stuff, but, y'all come in, and it literally is so nice, even though I don't see you physically. I see you. Well, Katniss, the reason I asked about healing or not, my aunt is 84, or she might be 85. If not, she's going on 85 or 86. But anyway, her healing is like, I don't know, when you get to the 80s ish, and I'm not really looking forward to it, but I'm going to prepare for it ahead of time. She had a blockage, now a stoma, but also getting infections. Oh, that's bad. That's what I was fixing to say. There's something about the 80s. Folks can get through the 70s okay, which I'm hoping I do. Well, I'll be 71, so I'm 1 year in. Only got 9 more years to go until I'm 80. But anyway, there's something about 80, but there's another body change. And so prayers sometimes are for them to be comfortable, because healing might not really be in the cards. That 80 plus. Just saying. I'm praying for healing, but sometimes, it's like, well, healing might really be kind of sort of out of the question here, but pray for her comfort and, that kind of thing. But I would pray for her healing. I just remember when my um, other relatives and so forth got to that age, and some bitch if I ain't almost there myself. It's like, no, crap, 9 years, I'll be 80. Wait, 9 years? Well, I'm looking at, I'm looking down the throat of 80, you know. Um, but blockage and that kind of thing, let's pray that, things will straighten out with Marie over in the UK. And I don't know exactly where she is, but let's sending my little thingy out there, and I sort of got this map of England in, and it's like I'm not sure where Kent is, but um, my brain is going like, doo, 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 Marie's over there somewhere. Let's send her some prayers and some healing, and you know, and some relief, as well as the healing. So let's hope it gets there. Um, you know, in the native, we should send crow. So if we send a message with crow, the healing message, to Marie. So there you go. All right. Middle UK. That's kind of sort of where the little point of light I saw in my brain. Oh no, you've lost your lighter. Oh no, rub two sticks together. Oh, you'll be checking in on me in 9 years. I hope that we're all still like to, I say together, but maybe together in one way or another, at least in spirit. And, if YouTube is still around, I'll still probably be crazy enough to be doing videos. So, you know, my, oh, but it's Mary, not Marie. Oh well, I was going to say. Oh, and also, Katniss, my niece is Marie. No, it's Mary. Oops, close. But now I'm just getting stoned. But I absolutely dig it that I get to hang out with y'all. We were talking, you know, once a month I get my YouTube stuff, and I get one or two subscribers a month, and I don't know how many I'm up to now. But it's the fact that, it's like I've said before, it's never been about the numbers and how many of you have subscribed to my channel. But it's absolutely wonderful that so many of you, we get on here and we have an exchange, and I love it. How many friends that I have picked up. I talking with my friend the other day, I said, had I not started this YouTube channel, I would not know any of y'all. I mean, I have, I met Ken Isby before he passed away. He came up here twice, and we spent time and got a chance to get good and stoned. And I sent him home with some presents and things and rocks and stuff, and hopefully had a little bit, something to do with, helping to keep his spirit together. And because we had lots of discussions about it, is my point about that. and on the phone and things. And he even did a call in one time on the house phone, and had, we did a live thing. And so, um, I wouldn't know any of you. We all wouldn't have met. And maybe some of y'all, because y'all are in other, chats and things and stuff and whatever. But, you know, and so I feel very grateful and very honored and gracious by your all's attendance and hanging out with me. So, and said, let appreciate our tech for bringing us together. I agree, Scotty boy. And like Brian and I discussed sometimes on live stream, but many times off, about how we just, we were praying to the universe that if we could affect one person's life in a positive way, just one person. And the many times we got together and did things together on his show. And but that was our basic, and is still my basic, why am I here, is to have these conversations. And if it helps one person to understand a little bit better about something in the universe or in their life or whatever, my life experiences, that if it's some way can relate, or it helps you to not become an alcoholic, or whatever, uh, then I have done my job. I am thankful, that if one person, and I hate to use the word saved, that just doesn't fit, but somehow that if one person has been able to lift themselves up or whatever, however it goes, right? That's my single goal. And when Mother Mary came to me and she said, it isn't about the numbers, Dave. It's not about the numbers. It's about when somebody needs to hear something, they'll hear it, you know? And the other night when I got on at 2 in the morning, it was one of them times when I was being shoved out of bed and they said, no, you got to get up. There's somebody out there that needs you at 2 in the morning. And I said, okay. So for whatever that means, and that's my shaman journey. And can we talk about shaman journey for a minute? Can we talk? Has anybody raised your hand? Has anybody seen it's not there now? They took it down. But Dante did a video today, and he actually did a live stream. Um, it was evening time in the Ukraine, but about 12 o'clock Eastern. And so he was like, this might be the end or not. And that was the title of the video. And he's like, I've about had it. And he said, it might be time that for me to die and to come back in 10 or 15 years or whatever and reincarnate and come back into this. And because things, for whatever perspective his perspective is, was not working out. And so he's like, I should just give up, give in, and and go ahead and die so I can be reincarnated. And so there was a brief discussion about reincarnation, and he goes, that is the thing. We are all reincarnated. We all reincarnate. Some of us might reincarnate in 10 years. Some of us might reincarnate in 20 years or 100 years or maybe in 1,000 years, between reincarnations. but we all reincarnate. Yeah, currently called the Charistus and the Cause. Yeah. And I could see the pain in his eyes today. I didn't get a chance to see it live. I got there right after he like signed off. So I wasn't there live. But he was reading the comments and everything. And towards the end of the video, he took this, looked like a 9mm, some kind of gun, and took out the clip and was talking and smoking a cigarette and put the clip back in. He took a bullet out. He did this thing and he was kind of holding the gun around. And there were folks in the chat going, no, no, no. I guess they thought he was going to put a bullet in his head. I wouldn't think he would do that because that's just bad karma. And I don't think he would put that on himself. But but the discussion of reincarnation. Now I know I have reincarnated here on this place this time around because I was such a dickhead the last time I was here. I mistreated people. I was a real pissant. And so I'm here this time around. Hopefully I have done a better job and in taking care of the property and my attitude and learning about native ways where before I was a white redneck man and I think like the early 1800s and I mistreated native folk around and just was not a nice guy. And so hopefully I have done a better job this time around. But there have also been a couple of things like I know I have learned about sword fighting. I've talked about that before when we did sword fighting when I was doing the play, The Vikings, and the sword fighting guy who teaches it to, you know, folks in theater and in movies from FSU, Florida State, in Tallahassee. And he goes, you've done this before, haven't you? And I was like, yeah, but it was in a previous life. So there's something about sword fighting. And I love watching a good sword fighting movie. They just, not so much the blood and gore, but a sure enough good sword fight. And so there's just a couple of other things that I feel like I was an Egyptian, but I wasn't a pharaoh or nothing, but I was an artisan of some type and maybe possibly an engineer because there is that engineering thing that I have in me along architecture, engineering, because I've worked for years as an engineer. So, there are certain things that is sort of like, that's why I never thought that the slopes and all the pulleys and everything that they taught about the pyramids when I was growing up as a little kid, I always thought was horse hooey, and I still do, you know. Um, but so what's that got to do with the price of tea in China, right? Um, we all have been reincarnated at least once. And the probability of our reincarnation back here at some point is highly likely. Now, one of the things we were talking about tonight on the other channel with uh, Scotty Boy and me and Robert was I forgot. Reincarnation. Oh, crap. It went right out of my head. I once was a green witch, a kitchen witch, a healer. That's what I needed to remember in this life. Yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. What we were in previous lives. Yeah. But I most religions, I mean, even the Catholic Church, I mean, Jesus died on the cross, and what did he say? He said, you shall, have everlasting life. Well, how can you have everlasting life? And as Dante has pointed out many times over the years, everlasting life is reincarnation, that we come back. Talking about the electric grid that might be around the planet. So that there's in this alien book thing we had was the discussion, and it has been discussed in other arenas too, with having to do with ET, is that the Earth is a prison planet of sorts. And in that if you die, your soul can't get off of the planet, that there's an invisible shield around the earth, and that if your soul tries to leave the atmosphere of earth, I will say that it gets zapped back down here. And so we have to stay here. Now, I'm not so sure about that. But there's a lot of story from ET and other places that seems to be the case. Now, one would argue, like, well, wait a minute, why would I where else would I go if I were going to be reincarnated? And then my kind of sort of thing is that I want to my idea of being a shaman is so that I can learn how to not just come back to the earth, but maybe go to Jupiter or Saturn or Pluto or maybe even another solar system within our galaxy. So, I'm not limiting myself to just coming back here, although that might be the limiting factor. I might not get to go someplace else. I might have to come back here, which is okay. But come back as a what? A turtle, a frog, a rock, a tree? That would be all right. Or another human being? Am I going to come back, as an American? Am I going to end up in Jersey, for God's sakes? I'm from Jersey. You from Jersey? I'm from Jersey. Anyway, that was an old joke. I find we come here as a Scorpio young soul and work through all zodiacal traits. Yeah, and see, right now I'm on the cusp of a Virgo and a Libra, and the two of them do not get along. But I think for me, I'm trying to find the balance. My soul is trying to find a balance. And I started out the first part of my life doing really crap. Actually, I started out good and then went downhill. Tried to come up, went downhill again, and you know, uh, but in my last 20 years, a bit, actually more than 20, I've been trying to be good. I quit drinking, and trying to find that spiritual balance as well. You know, after ruining a lot of my life with too much drinking and so forth. So but um what does it do me in the long run though? Well, I don't know. My fingers are crossed in that, as the native indigenous shamans, most of them believe, is that a good shaman's death is one in which you will remember part of your past life in the next life. So I would like to be able to remember some stuff next time. So this time, through whatever, I remembered that I was a horse's ass the last time I was here. And so I'm learning the lesson to not be the dickhead I was last time I was literally here near and on this property, not just here physically, but I mean down here in this very locale and on this property. So, um, does it, if I do a good job, does it mean I'll come back here? I don't know. That'd be interesting. It'd be curious that if I could remember it, having lived here for 40 years and then, to die and come back in 5 or 10 years and then somehow come back, that would be cool. It just as, as a reincarnation kind of thing, that'd be interesting. But at the same time, it'd be nice to move on. I don't necessarily, have to come back here, you know. But at the same time, in talking with um, a friend about the portal in the backyard, and that there now I feel this time around, I'm somehow a guardian of that portal. That for whatever reason that I'm here this time, it's not just to do better because I was such a poo head the last time, but that I'm actually here on purpose to guard the portal that's on the property line. So is that part of my shaman's journey? And I would say yes. Because of the entities that I've seen come in and out of the hole, um, and the different spirits that roam around here that other people have seen and experienced, and have some of my friends have actually talked to some of the ghosts and spirits that are down here that have crossed through, if you will. So I know they exist, have taken pictures of their orbs. And so, but is it literally my job, this reincarnation, to stand not necessarily like a guardian angel, but sorta? Um, it's hard for me to explain, but my brain can go right out there in the backyard immediately, and I can see the portal kind of thing, and it's right there, and I'm sitting here. So the whole thing has been an interest. I'm still learning what's going on about it. So, but as does this job that I'm here for, is it part of this reincarnation? Is it part of the job? Do I have to? Am I learning something by being here and doing this? And if so, what is it? And is what I'm learning this time through going to help me the next time through? Not necessarily here, but the next time through in a reincarnation. So if I believe, then this ain't my last time through. I will be back. Where, how, whatever, I don't know. But I'm hoping that I will remember some of this life when it comes to the next. That's what I hope. So, boy, there's some jumping around. I don't know why I'm here. I've been told by 3 different people that I'm here because I gather people to the team. A heap of them supposedly while I'm an introvert. Screen froze. I just want to go canoeing again. Yeah. Yeah. And it's the adventure of it. I was watching somebody else's channel today and them going fishing. And I was just like, man, shoot. I've got 3 kayaks and a canoe and my new little bass boat thingy, the Bass Hound. which, by the way, I don't like. I got in it the other day and I don't like it. My buddy said he'd buy it back, and I'm like, well, but the fact that it's legal and I can put a motor on it and all that, I'll keep it for now, but I really don't like it. I really don't like it. It's how the seats are built into the damn thing. And there's not enough room for your legs, and because it's molded plastic, and that's what I don't like about it. Anyway. Yeah, and because I'm a water dragon, that makes me want to get back on the water. You know what I mean? So it's not just the kayaking, but I want to get back out on the water. And the hydrotherapy the last couple of weeks has done me good. Just me bobbing up and down in the water has just been lovely. It's like a big bathtub with jets in it. And at the end of the session, they turn on the big jets, and you back up to the wall, and these things really crank out. Oh my God! I mean, it literally blow you back across the pool. Oh, oh man! But woo, it feels so good. Anyway, so but in this crisis that everybody, I'm swinging back around to the original topic to kind of swing around back to the original topic. Um, the crisis that everybody imposes on us. Listening to RFK Jr. to yesterday, or was it today? But anyway, during the having hearings, did y'all see that? Having hearings on First Amendment rights, free speech, second First Amendment, and uh, not censoring free speech, right? And so there were 102 Democrats who signed a petition who said they wanted to censor Robert Robert Kennedy Jr. from speaking in the House floor. And it's like, what? And to listen to that crazy woman, Miss Sasserman Schultz, whatever, she is got to, her brain is twisted, because I've heard RFK having conversations, okay, and having conversations about, making reference to, sicknesses, if it, for example, if COVID had really turned out to be as bad as it was, it would have claimed as many lives as the Holocaust. And so people are like, oh, he's talking about COVID and the Holocaust, and he's an anti-Semite, and he's a this, and oh my God, are you serious? These folks can take things out of context. To watching his face during the thing, he was like in utter disbelief that Wasserman Schultz, bitch, sorry, she is, was actually twisting his words to where she was going with this stuff. Well, do you believe when she was speaking so fast and something, something, something about because you spoke about Israel and blah, 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 is that correct? Is that true? And he was like, what? You know, but the fact that they tried to boycott him from speaking at all, especially in the public forum, she wanted to table it and go into executive session. And then somebody spoke up and said, oh, let's table that. And it was 10 to 8, and they tabled it. So they continued to have the conversation. But whoever the black lady was who kept grilling him with some of the most dumbass stuff, and he is like, "That is not what I said." Well, you said such a that. Excuse me, but you're defaming my character because you're calling me a racist, and that's not what I said. And it's like, so here's somebody who's as old as I am, a little younger, I think, because he was a young man and I was already probably preteen or so. You know, I was 10 years old when his uncle got killed. Well, actually 11, because he was murdered in 63 and I was born in 52. So I'd been 11 when JFK got shot. But then when his father got shot a few years later, I was in high school. So, but he would have been just a little child. But we're still, you know, he may be in his 60s where I'm 70-ish now. Um, we've we've seen a lot in our lifetimes. And so the fact that these people can, you know, and I think he's been one of the calmest, if you want to call him a politician, um, you know, for all the good that he's done and all the things as a lawyer and so forth. And they're calling him names and saying that he's a racist and anti-Semitic and Semitic, you know, that thing with and Europe. I mean, in Israel, what? And he's a Democrat and they're a Democrat. So what is going on? Well, have a good morning, Katniss. Have a good breakfast. Make a scrambled egg for me. Put some ketchup on it. Maybe a dash of Tabasco. But anyway, so with this craziness that's going on, though, I've been just looking at the Congress. But here's the good thing, the good news is that there are members of Congress who spoke up on behalf of Kennedy. Not because he was a Kennedy, but because they, you know, these other folks were treating him with, you know, with disrespect. I mean, just pure out disrespect. You know, you don't like the guy, okay, but don't make shit up. You know, and he kept saying, I think it's time for us to have, you know, a discourse that we can talk like human beings and we can. I want to have discourse. I want to have, you know, debate, but it shouldn't be with childish things. And there was the black lady, she kept interrupting him and he was trying to finish up and the chairman was like, stop interrupting. And she goes, I'm not. So he'd start talking again. She goes, I'm not trying to interrupt. And so he was like, you know, stop interrupting. And she was like, I'm not. But every time he tried, oh my God, it was a comical farce. And, you know, and that's, these are the grown-ups who are, you know, who are minding the the store. What? Oh my God. Oh my God, to see their behavior is just unbelievable. And then 102 Democrats signed a petition saying that they didn't want him to testify at a hearing for oh God almighty. They didn't want him to testify at a hearing on censorship. How ironic is that? Sorry, gang, we don't want you to testify because you might say something we don't like. Obviously, so they said we don't want him to. We don't even want him in the building. That's how much. So the Democrats censored him before he ever started. Is that not something? So the first thing we have to see, this is part of the crisis thing. This is going back. These are the same people who would sign a petition to not let someone testify about censorship when they're being censored in a censorship case, blah, blah, blah. These are the same people who are preaching that we are in a crisis. That's the issue. It's the same people who are censoring him who are spouting that my conversation with y'all about this is like solar power is great, but when it's cloudy all the time it don't work, you know. And we've had a lot of clouds here recently, so you lose that solar gain and blah 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 blah. So but um you know, I've got solar panels myself. My light bill last month was $45. So am I you know, do I consolidate and you know, yes. Do I conserve? Yes. In the wintertime I burn my own firewood and things and stuff, and you know, I try to conserve. Um and so and I have lived this way all my life, you know, as a conservative, you know, because I love the land and I love the earth, and I, you know, so it is a way of life for me, which it isn't necessarily for other people. But and that's okay. Um, but that was my decision to live this way, and I'm still here, kind of thing, and that's all right. Um, but again, I'm not in a crisis right now because we have water. You know, if anything, maybe a little too much, but I'm not flooded, which is a great thing. It's really wet in the backyard back there. But these people who want to place us in a position in our heads that everything is in a crisis mode. So for every time they repeat climate crisis, it wants to put us in that fight or flight mode with our psyche, and it screws with us. So no matter, we're not paying attention, climate crisis, I mean, climate, but it's eating on people. And for me, I just, well, here they go again, you know. But there are other people like me who are going, here they go again. You know, I think it was on the Dark Journalist, uh, Dr. Farrell, and I think it was some kind of remark, and he goes something something, oh, about the heat in Texas or whatever, and he laughed and he goes, yes, this ain't the first time it's been hot. And Dr. Farrell's about my age ish, I find out. And so, you know, and he was like, so turn on the air conditioner. You know, it's summertime. It's July in Texas. It's supposed to be hot. Right. You know, and I laughed the other night when I heard it, and I was like, right on, brother. But there's been some other folks, kind of sort of my age, that are saying the same things, like this crisis thing is bananas. But don't let them, it's the fact that they're repeating it, the crisis, the crisis, the crisis, the crisis, that is trying to get to people's psyche. So don't let it, okay? Even though you're not paying attention to it, and even though you may know better, crises, crises, crises. Oh, there's a food shortage, there's a crisis. Oh, there's a something, something, it's a crisis. Da 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 da, it's a crisis, you know? So they're trying to put these words in our head to literally muck with our brains. They want to muck it up so we're like, oh, and for me is like, oh, holy crap, or crises, crises, crises. So my folks up there, they're saying, Dave, you got to have this conversation. Hawkeye, you got to have this conversation with folks in that we have, yes, we're going to hear it, but we got to make sure our heads are clear. Is it really a crisis? No, no. The earth has been changing for a million years. No, it's just a cycle. Okay. I'm so grateful we have rain the last couple of years. Don't you bitch at me about crises. We have water. I have water in the well. Don't you? It ain't a crisis to me. You know, thank you very much. 20 years ago was a crisis. Not the. So, oh, but global something. Okay. But in my neighborhood and for us down here, 20 years ago was a crisis. Now, nope. We were having a slight inconvenience when it rains, you know, when this front moved in and we had these thunderstorms last night and today. That was an inconvenience, but yeah, wasn't a crisis. But actually, there was severe thunderstorm warnings in 8 different places. So that could have been a crisis. There was hail. That couldn't be an issue. So, um, yeah, but it lasted for just a couple of hours and the storm went through. So, are we under a crisis now? No. We were under thunderstorm warnings, severe thunderstorm warnings, and they were bad enough to have spawned a tornado or two. And I haven't heard, but that's the kind of thing that happens. So, but climate crisis, nah, just thunderstorms in the area. You know, it's July, it's summertime, it's what happens, So, but anyway, I continue to pray each and every day that each and every one of you will continue to learn how to accept and receive the knowledge, the healing, the wisdom, and the many blessings in the universe. And I know that there are folks out there who are in this climate crisis thing who are, oh, it's evil entities and there's a evilness behind it. And the devil and Satan is causing all of these bad storms and everything. And the extra heat is because hellfire is coming to us, and it's like, oh, please. Oh, please, Jesus, don't start that. In the last 40 years of just living here, it's just another cycle. That's all. Oh, but the heat and the thing, it's just another cycle. Sorry, I've lived through at least 3 different waves over the years of wet to we started out wet when I first got here, and then it dried up, and then it got wet, and then it dried up, and now it's in the wet again. So I think that's might be, but anyway, but to my point though, so I have seen the cycles, I have lived through the cycles here, and but at the same time, I've watched the rest of the United States and I've watched the rest of the world. And yeah, there has been issues and earthquakes and this and that, but we're still here. It's simply cycles within the sun. We get blasted with gamma rays and these kind of rays and stuff. We get hit with magnetic waves, and the planet goes wonky, and we get literally microwave down here with the higher UV light, radiation that's reaching us now. Even with the clouds, the UV down here has been the extreme level, like 11 plus. to the 13 range with clouds. And so, you know, climate change, it's the sun. The sun is changing. We've talked about the sun changing for years. I have, and the fact that it's more in the blue range than it was in the orange. The sun used to be orange when I was growing up. It was orange, all right, and it's not orange like that anymore. So we've had a light shift along with all the extra ultraviolet rays that are hitting us now. Just the other day, it was like the we had fair weather, beautiful everything, but extreme UV and caution. Extreme caution, UV. In other words, you know, cover yourself with mylar so you don't get radiated. So, you know, climate change. Ooh, part of it is the sun. A lot of it is the sun. But what they're considering climate change is nothing more than patterns in the weather over the years. Katniss, I'm going to say another prayer for Marie just because I remembered. Get better soon, Miss Marie. But so we don't need to get caught up in it, is the biggest thing. And we need to kind of spread that. Oh, but the climate condition and everything, we need to calm people down and go listen and just be practical about it. You can use me as an example. Hey, old crazy Dave over there, he's, you know, had a drought 20 years ago and they don't have a drought anymore. Is that good? That's climate change. And but he was in a crisis 20 years ago, but he's not now. I mean, you know, but in that, you know, you can cite different things, you know, that 20 years ago it was like this, you know, and it's like a bunch of moons ago, and I've talked about this before, and people have forgotten about it. It was like the Great Dust Bowl out west in Oklahoma and Kansas and out there, you know, the Great Dust Bowl and the migration of the people, and oh my God, the humanity, you know. So oh, it's never been like this, and oh, it's been so bad, and oh, the weather right now is horrible. Bring up the Dust Bowl. What? Bring up the Dust Bowl, you know, which gave Woody Guthrie and folks a chance to sing highway songs and whatever. Manuka honey, is that because of a particular plant? See, down here we have orange blossom honey. Well, at least down in Florida they do, or they did. I guess they still do. And up here we've got peach honey because of all the peach trees in certain areas. So you know, uh, it's from New Zealand. Most of the time, I don't know about, you know, this particular time, Katniss, but you know, down here, if they'll put whatever honey, it's like peach honey or apple honey or, you know, whatever, you know, because of whatever the bees were, you know, they put the hives in the middle of an orchard, you know, and that's how the honey would taste. So if it says Manuka, then I'm wondering if that's a plant, is my point. So, but anyway, this thing about the climate crisis has been on my brain for quite a while. And after reading and hearing and listening to some things today and tonight, I was just like, it seems like this is as good a time as any to bring up the subject and to try to put a little bit of good for you, Chloe. So, let's keep crisis out of it because until the ice poles really melt, now I know there's melting going on and there's all other kinds of things too, but there's also, record ice being recorded in other places too. So they only give us the information that they want us to hear, and the word crisis is becoming more of a crisis, in my humble opinion, in that they're using the word more. So they want to crash it. They want to crash us. They want to continue on with this no oil thing. And that's just dumb. We already have the technology to make hydrogen fuel, and we can use solar to power the hydrogen stations that make the fuel. So, but people won't invest in the infrastructure. And so we can continue to use oil in our engines so that they will last and work correctly, and to where we won't have to burn a quote fossil fuels. Fossils ain't got shit to do with the oil. But anyway, oh, by the way, when we were growing up, it was dinosaurs what created all the oil. But then you go out to California and you see the La Brea tar pits and you go, well, wait a minute. So there was tar and oil and stuff that trapped the dinosaurs. So wait a minute, I thought the dinosaurs made the oil and the tar and the wait a minute, you mean there was already oil and tar here when there were dinosaurs? Um and then they quit talking about dinosaurs. But they still use the word fossil fuel, and that's a false statement. Oil has nothing to do with fossils. Nothing to do with fossils, okay? Oil is the natural lubricant on in the earth and is somehow produced by the earth. Not quite sure how the earth does it, but the Russians years ago found out that as they were pumping oil out of the wells, they would, just about pump them dry. So then they'd stop pumping out of the well for a year or two, and then they'd go back and check it and come to find out, just like in my dug well, the water comes back up in the well. So they could go back out there and, so they drain it down to where there's like 25% still left in the ground, and they'd come back in a couple of years and it'd be back up to like, three quarters. So they could pump more oil out of the same well that was almost dry. So the Russians have been learning how to do this for a long time now. Okay. For I heard about this like 20 years ago, that the Russians had learned how to do this. They were going back to older wells and bringing oil back out of them. So, there's all these abandoned wells in the Gulf of Mexico, right? We can't drill anymore. No, but you can go back to the wells that are already there and pull some more oil out of them, because the oil will leach back up and the pressure and everything. And it might not fill all the way back up when you first drilled, but there'll be a half to three quarters there, after a few years, most of the time that they have checked it. So we still have oil, and it's still, we don't have to drill anymore. We just need to be careful with what we're pulling out. So if we go to hydrogen fuel, that takes care of the oil problem. We can still tap off of what we've already drilled. We can still bring up oil and get things like kerosene, and which is real important. I use kerosene all the time and diesel fuel. Um, but in the long run, though, we can move everything else to hydrogen. I could even reconvert my vehicle to hydrogen. It would cost me a little, but I could do it. But to be able to run on water, what a great idea, right? So anyway, there is a lot going on above us. Oh, you betcha. Oh, yeah. And I've been wondering, because we've been under a lot of cloud cover down here, and some of the, I can't, I haven't been able to see a good night of stars in a while, and which means I can't see other things in the sky either. Like my little UFO friend that I could, you know, would come up at least once or twice a month. And was trying to figure out a way, if I saw it again, to get my good camera out with a tripod and try to honestly, zoom in and try to get a good shot at it. Um, if it's humanity, if it's human grade, then try and spray your throat. Oh, oh, you meant with weather? Yeah, that too. But we had the conversation tonight on Milky Way, about aliens, and there are just too many pictures of normal folk taking pictures of spaceships, and they are spaceships. I mean, even Robert V took a little video of something he saw in the sky, and it's got that pulsating thing in the middle. And, don't know who it is, but he took a picture of a space. He's got a little bit of video of a spaceship. And so it's like, yep. And I've witnessed them. I've witnessed several things over the years. And, well, do you have a picture? No, but I freaking saw it. Okay. I, did you see that, tornado that went by? No. Did you take a picture of it? No. But I saw it. uh, but anyway, so we have to accept the fact that aliens are absolutely here. Okay. But which ones do we want to associate with? And for me, I've already know that I'm associated with the Charistas. Okay. And for whatever way, for whatever, I'm a part of the cause, whether they know it or not. But with the videos that I've made over the years, they know I mean what I mean. And so, but other people, do they know anything at all about any of it? Do they know who Dante is and the Charistus group? Have they seen them spaceships or whatever? Have they seen the angel pictures? Somebody put a picture up on the internet the other day, and it was like, look at this glimmering spaceship. And it actually looked like one of the angels that Dante had put up pictures of, from over there out of one of their nests. And so it's like, so I'm sorry if people nowadays don't believe in UFOs, then that's their fault, really. And I mean that with the utmost of respect, dear friends. I'm sorry, but there have been, UFOs coming here for thousands of years. And some of our relatives are from the stars. Get over it. Native American peoples and many native cultures believe it. They know that they came from the dog star or this one or that one. And what's the big deal? It would be somebody say, Dave, did you know you were from your great ancestors are from the dog star in the constellation of Sirius? No, I did not know that. Well, they are. And did you know that your cousin, his ancestors Are, they're from, this, the Andromeda. No, I did not know that. And now for me personally, there's, I've got some kind of association with the Pleiades, and I had it as a child, and I don't know what it means. There have been times when I have wondered when I was a youngin' into my teenage years as to whether or not I learned this afterwards, but looking back, like in a self hypnosis kind of thing, what did that shit mean when I was growing up? And the answer was, I might have been abducted by Palladian folks of some sort. And because it was like they were teaching me something. I don't know what. But as an 11-year-old, looking out the window and seeing Pleiades, not even knowing what Pleiades was at the time. So what's my association going back, and what's my previous? I don't know, but there's some kind of association there on my part. I don't try to brag about it or, oh, I'm Palladian, or I can talk to Chief Umpally Punk from the plate. Nope, I make no claims. But at the same time, there's something inside of me that goes, I wouldn't be surprised if somebody, came up and said, hi, I'm a long lost relative from Pleiades. And, and did you know you were from there? And I'd go, yeah, I think so. Just got an inkling, but that's all. So for me, I have felt that way for a long time, unbeknownst or having anything to do with a lot of other stuff. But other people, they don't have that connection that seems to draw them to the stars or to some kind of previous lifetime or incarnation or something like that. So, with planetary alignments and the universe, and there's more to this universe than just this tiny little planet here. And expand your mind and accept it. Like I'm always saying, accept and receive the knowledge, the healing, the wisdom, and the many blessings from the universe. Because guess what? Some of those gifts from the universe are understanding that we're more than just this planet, that we're more than just this little solar system, that we're several solar systems, we're a galaxy, and then we're other galaxies, and we're a part of this great big universe with all this stuff in it. One of the things when I was growing up, they said, ooh, space is empty, you know. Well, they said 2 or 3 days ago that this giant rock went by between the Earth and the moon, and scientists didn't see it until the damn thing went by. And it was as big as New Jersey or something. I don't know. But anyway, so yeah, you're a consciousness, and also you're just awareness. Your awareness of stuff, which will open your consciousness, but, just awareness, you know. I, it was funny. I was in waiting to get in the pool the other day, right? And ended up going in and having a bicycle therapy instead. And I'm talking to the gentleman. I go, Brandon, I said, I'm looking around inside the gym area there. And I go, I can't believe it. I said, there's not a water fountain down here. And he goes, well, you pass the water fountain every time you come in. And I'm looking around. I'm going, where? You know. And he said, well, we got to go out to the hall, and because he had to go down and working on my schedule. And he goes, come out here. And I walked out in the hall, and damn sure enough, I walked by it every time I went in there. And I've probably seen it, but there's the water fountain. I mean, just like right there. And holy crap in a bag. And I was like, well, while I'm at it, so don't y'all have a bathroom down here on this end? Well, he said, well, to be fair, Mr. No, he said, it's behind this door. Well, they have a door from the hallway that's open. And behind that open door is the gentleman's. And I was like, son of a bitch. And right there within a couple of feet of each other. And as many times as I thought I was being observant, I had walked right by the water fountain and and I'm like to myself, I've noticed things on the wall, I've noticed things on the floor, but I walked right by the damn water fountain. And I've been in there a good 2 dozen, well, counting the times that I was there before, six, yeah, at least 12 times. And I had to stand beside the water fountain to get in the pool because the water fountains are in this little nook right by the door to the pool. So I'm like, how? I'm standing there going, well, how freaking observant have I been recently? You know, but every time I've gone into there, my mind's preoccupied. But it's still, I should have noticed the two water fountains, a big one and a little one. They're silver and almost stick out into the aisle. I mean, should have noticed them. So I'm still guilty of not being aware of stuff, you know. I mean, I really felt stupid the other day. I was like, holy shit. I walk right by them every time I come in, and then I walk by them when I leave. Holy crap. So, but anyway, um, so for me, I consider myself to be pretty observant, right? Because I notice little things, but I miss the big thing, the water fountain. But so, with all the practice of all the years of being observant, I'm still learning. I'm still learning to be observant and to take things in and different circumstances. So, it ain't like, a novice of just like, oh my God, you want me to be observant? Yeah, just be aware of stuff. Just kind of look around and scope things out. And it ain't a really big deal, but you'll let your brain notice things, And I wished I'd have noticed the water fountain beforehand at the bathroom because there's one on the other side of the building that's a pretty good hike. And when you got to go, like I did the other day, that hiking was not in the picture. There would have been a dribble all the way to there. I'd have been done peed before I got to the other bathroom. That it was sad. God, I hate getting old, but at least I'm having fun with it. But so reincarnation for my part is a real thing. Edgar Casey has talked about reincarnation. Many of the religions have talked about reincarnation. The Catholic Church talks about life everlasting, which how do you get life everlasting? And it's through reincarnation. So you get to come and play and be here. And then when you die, you get to take a rest in the spirit world and then you get a chance to come back again. And that's basically what Casey has said, that you get the opportunity as an angel being to come down here and do something, And so, to be a positive force or, for me to have agreed to this life's, you know, having been born into a a bastard situation, with my mother and father not being married and not allowed to be together, and then being, born in an orphanage and given up that way, and 6 foster homes and the whole thing, right? So, to have agreed to that, what was I thinking? And did I look at the fine print? So, but the idea, though, that to leave this life, to be able to remember some of the things from this life in the next, and maybe come back and have a little bit more a little bit more savvy, you know, just be a little bit more in touch and aware, and maybe not cringe at so many things like I did in this life, just being a little bit more better control with certain things. So, but anyway, I love you all, and it has been great to hang out with you this morning. And I continue to pray that each and every day, this is my third one, that each and every day, that each and every one of you will continue to learn how to accept and receive the knowledge, the healing, the wisdom, and the many, many blessings out there in the universe. And believe, 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 because when we leave this lifetime, oh, you're welcome. Katniss and Chloe and Michelle, love you, big hugs. And I know there's some other folks out there. Hey, Travis, thank you. And good morning to you. Have a good Sunday. And, and just remember, it's July. We're in the dog days of summer, which relates to the dog star, by the way. So, good morning, my dear friends. Sleep well. I got Duggar sitting here. He's rubbing his head up against my knee. We're like, what do you want? He's like, let's go. Last night at 3 in the morning, he's like, come on, let's go out and play. And I'm like, no, come on, let's go out and play. No, you know, and he's sitting here like now, like, oh, come on. What do you want? What you want? You just want to sit next to me, huh? You just want to sit next to me? Let me see if I can get him on camera. There's my Duggar. There's my Duggar. Say what you want, Duggar. Huh? Say what you want. Say what you want. Say what you want. Hmm? Are you all right, Doug? Duggar. Huh? For some reason, he knows if I put him on camera. Look over this way. Look over this way. He won't do it. He won't look over this way. And just a minute ago, he was all up in my critters are so crazy. Yeah, he is. But he's been he's doing it again. Now he's got his face all in here. He's so crazy. Stage fright. Yeah. Camera shy. And I'm when we're on the river and stuff, I can get the back of his head, but if he turns his head and I go look at me or something like that, he'll just look up or he's silly that away. Anyway, I love you all. I do. And Mark, all y'all, Chloe and Michelle, Katniss, let's see, and I know I'm missing. Oh, uh, anyway, I'm tired and I'm a little stoned, and it's been a long couple days for me. So, but I love you. Please be safe, okay? Please, please, please be safe. And we will chat again soon. All right. And sleep well. Be safe. You know, cheers, everybody. And wee. Be sure you do that. All right. Until next time, keep it together. Keep it between the ditches. Bye.